If you ask me, the prevailing narrative surrounding the recent genetic tampering at the police station is entirely backwards. The general consensus floating around the fandom is that our resident charming rogue, Ethan, is simply running another selfish grift, manipulating the system for his own financial gain or personal leverage. But what if we are looking at the biggest con of his entire life, and for the very first time, it has absolutely nothing to do with saving his own skin? We are so conditioned to view the trickster through a lens of deep suspicion that we completely miss the agonizing truth staring us right in the face. What if this seemingly criminal act of breaking into an evidence room and swapping genetic material is actually a desperate, heartbreaking act of ultimate sacrifice? I genuinely believe that beneath the smirk and the sleight of hand, we are witnessing a man throwing himself onto a live grenade to protect a helpless child from a monster we all thought was dead. Let us take a step back and look at the actual mechanics of what is happening right now in the city. Ethan deliberately infiltrated the highly secure evidence facility to steal the original medical sample belonging to baby Phoebe, replacing it with his own genetic markers. By falsifying this official forensic record, he has legally cemented himself as the biological father of the child. On the surface, it looks like a classic manipulation tactic, a way to insert himself into a wealthy family's orbit. He has effectively paved a frictionless path for Harrison and Brooklyn to finalize their adoption of the little girl without facing any sudden, mysterious legal challenges or custody disputes. He is handing them a clean slate, a legally binding shield that allows them to take the child home in peace. But the meticulously planned nature of this crime suggests something far deeper than a mere scam. This is where it gets incredibly interesting, guys. Why is Ethan so intensely focused on ensuring that this specific couple living in that specific legacy mansion takes custody of Phoebe? It is not just about ensuring the baby has a financially stable upbringing or a comfortable life. Ethan knows that the family estate is not merely a home. It is a veritable fortress. With its state-of-the-art security systems, private guards, and the fiercely protective nature of its inhabitants, it is a bunker disguised as a luxury estate. For example, just look at how fiercely Brooklyn has guarded secrets in the past to protect those she loves. Ethan recognizes that same fierce maternal loyalty and is banking on it to keep the baby alive. Furthermore, Harrison, with his extensive law enforcement background and unyielding moral compass, represents the ultimate physical and legal protector. Ethan deliberately chose them because he understands that the child requires an impenetrable wall of defense. So, the burning question we must ask ourselves is this: who exactly is Ethan hiding this innocent little girl from? A man does not risk decades in a federal penitentiary for tampering with police evidence just to play matchmaker for an adoptive couple. He is actively erasing a bloodline. He is constructing a massive, elaborate lie to obscure a terrifying genetic truth from the world. Ethan is terrified, and if you have been watching the show as long as I have, you know it takes a truly apocalyptic threat to make a seasoned survivor like him sweat. He is not running toward a payday. He is desperately trying to cover the tracks of a phantom menace before that menace realizes a trail even exists. This brings us to the most chilling theory currently circulating in the deepest shadows of our community. What if the biological father of little Phoebe is none other than Peter? Just saying that name sends a cold shiver down my spine. We are talking about a man whose legacy of psychological torture, manipulation, and sheer sociopathic violence left a permanent scar on the soul of the entire city. Peter is the monster who never truly stays dead, a villain whose dark shadow stretches far beyond the grave. If this child carries his blood, she is not just an innocent baby. She is the heir to a dark, twisted dynasty. Ethan knows that if Peter's genetic signature were ever officially logged into any database, it would act as a beacon, drawing the ultimate darkness straight to the child's crib. To understand the full gravity of this nightmare, we have to look at the tragic, heartbreaking journey of Delilah. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated terror she must have felt during her final months. The theory suggests that Delilah became a victim of Peter's obsessive, controlling nature, forced into a pregnancy that she never wanted. She ran to the city not for a fresh start, but seeking a desperate sanctuary, a place to hide her unborn child from a relentless psychopath. Delilah's story is one of profound, unspeakable tragedy. She never got the chance to hold her daughter, to sing her a lullaby, or to promise her a safe future. She succumbed to massive internal bleeding following a brutal emergency surgical delivery, leaving Phoebe as the sole survivor of her desperate flight. We simply cannot ignore the glaring, deeply unsettling parallels between Delilah's suspected ordeal and the harrowing trauma endured by Willow. Do you remember the absolute nightmare Willow lived through when she was trapped in the clutches of Shiloh? The psychological torment, the forced coercion, the sheer panic of bringing a child into a world controlled by a manipulative cult leader, it was one of the darkest chapters we have ever witnessed. For example, Willow's desperate attempts to hide her own child mirrored Delilah's final fatal run for freedom. Delilah's unseen suffering echoes Willow's pain, but arguably on an even more terrifying scale, because Peter's brand of villainy is far more insidious and far-reaching than anything Shiloh could have ever orchestrated. By drawing this parallel, the story subtly reminds us of the lengths a mother will go to in order to protect her baby from a monster. Now, place Ethan squarely in the center of this devastating tragedy. He is the sole keeper of Delilah's agonizing secret. He stood there, knowing the catastrophic danger hanging over this fragile newborn's head. Ethan's transformation here is profoundly moving. We are so used to seeing him as the wandering rogue, the guy who always has an exit strategy and prioritizes his own survival above all else. But in this moment, looking at a motherless child hunted by a ghost, he made a conscious choice to become a silent guardian. He understands with absolute certainty that if Peter ever discovers he has a living daughter, he will stop at nothing to claim her. Peter does not view children as human beings. He views them as possessions, as extensions of his own twisted ego. Ethan is willingly painting a massive target on his own back to ensure that target never lands on the baby. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and I need to pause for a second to play devil's advocate with myself. Am I projecting too much nobility onto a character who has historically operated in the gray areas of morality? Could I be giving Ethan entirely too much credit here? It is entirely possible that he is playing a long-term angle, using the falsified paternity to secure a permanent, unbreakable tie to a wealthy, influential legacy family. Maybe he views the child merely as a bargaining chip, a way to extort Brooklyn and Harrison down the line. If you look at his past behavior, it isn't completely out of the realm of possibility. However, when I really sit down and analyze the sheer magnitude of the risk involved, that cynical theory falls apart completely. Falsifying forensic police evidence is a massive, life-ruining felony. You simply do not risk decades in a maximum security prison just for a potential future shakedown when a man of his unique talents could easily run a dozen safer, more lucrative grifts elsewhere. No, the stakes here are life and death, not dollars and cents. And this is exactly where the theory evolves from a tragic backstory into a present-day, high-stakes thriller. There are whispers, unconfirmed, terrifying whispers that Peter did not perish, but instead reinvented himself as the mysterious, omnipotent figure known only as the elusive Shadow Broker. Think about the level of coordination, the vast network of spies, and the ruthless manipulation required to pull the strings of international intelligence agencies. That has Peter's signature written all over it. If Peter is indeed the man operating behind the curtain, then he is currently orchestrating chaos across the globe, completely unaware that his most prized possession, his own flesh and blood, is being hidden right under his nose. The implications of this are absolutely staggering and change the entire landscape of the show. If Peter is truly operating from the shadows, then Ethan's genetic swap is not a permanent solution. It is a ticking time bomb, counting down to an inevitable, violent explosion. We all know how meticulously Peter monitors his surroundings and how obsessively he digs into the lives of those he views as threats or assets. For example, look at his past history of uncovering the most deeply buried secrets, manipulating the memories and lives of so many legacy characters without them even realizing it. It is only a matter of time before a discrepancy is noticed, a medical record is flagged, or a whisper reaches the wrong ear. How long can a forged document hold up against the vast, invasive resources of an international shadow broker? Every single day that passes is a borrowed day, and Ethan knows the clock is ticking louder with each passing hour. My heart genuinely aches when I think about the incredibly vulnerable position Brooklyn and Harrison are currently in. They are completely, blissfully oblivious to the apocalyptic storm gathering just over the horizon. They believe they are simply navigating the standard, albeit stressful, bureaucratic hurdles of adopting a sweet, orphaned baby. They are decorating a nursery, buying toys, and dreaming of a peaceful future, entirely unaware that they are essentially harboring a nuclear warhead in their living room. When Peter inevitably figures out the truth, he will not care about adoption papers or legal custody. He will view Brooklyn and Harrison not as parents, but as thieves who stole his property. He will target them with a level of ruthlessness that will make their past conflicts look like child's play, bringing a war directly to the steps of their heavily guarded home. And what happens to our silent guardian when the truth finally comes to light? If Peter discovers the deception, Ethan will instantly become public enemy number one. Peter does not forgive, and he certainly does not leave loose ends. He will view Ethan's actions as the ultimate betrayal, a personal insult that demands a swift and lethal response. Ethan will be targeted for immediate elimination to silence the only person who knows the full, unvarnished truth about Delilah's fate and the genetic manipulation. The most heartbreaking part of this entire scenario is that Ethan almost certainly knows this. He went into that evidence room fully aware that he was signing his own death warrant. He has accepted his role as the sacrificial lamb, willing to trade his own life for a few years of peace for a child who isn't even his. We are currently watching the slow, agonizing buildup to a catastrophic collision of epic proportions. On one side, we have Peter, a relentless force of sociopathic nature, armed with endless resources and a twisted, dangerous sense of entitlement. On the other side, we have the fierce, unconditional love of Brooklyn and Harrison, backed by the formidable defenses of their family's legacy. And caught right in the middle is Ethan, holding the crumbling pillars of a massive lie on his shoulders, waiting for the sky to fall. The emotional fallout when Brooklyn and Harrison finally realize the true terrifying nature of the danger they are in will be devastating. They will have to transition instantly from loving parents to wartime generals, fighting to protect a child from a biological father who represents pure evil. As we watch Ethan navigate this incredibly dangerous tightrope, smiling through the deception while carrying the weight of the world, I cannot help but wonder how this will all end. Will his desperate, noble gamble actually pay off, buying enough time for Phoebe to grow up safe, loved, and hidden from the darkness? Or is he simply delaying the inevitable, setting the stage for a massacre when the ghost of the past finally comes knocking on the mansion doors? One thing is for absolute certain: the shadows are growing longer, the secrets are becoming deadlier, and the true cost of protecting an innocent life has yet to be fully paid. We are left waiting for the other shoe to drop, knowing that when it does, nothing will ever be the same again.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.